Where's the donuts?
There's coffee in here if anybody wants it.
I'm teasing.
Oh, sorry.
This is a no frills fraud.
Yeah, this is we're getting down to business around here, right? Was I supposed to bring donuts? I know, I got it.
Is that very far from where we're at?
Yeah, maybe 4 months.
Okay.
I never lived
We
around.
need to home drive by and stuff if we have.
We're talking about the hair salon?
Yeah.
So I would not go 57 because everybody's coming into town for Saturday morning. Just
Uh-huh.
FYI. I never come in this way. Traffic was like all the way almost back up to Hickman's Crossing, just with people coming in. But that's the easiest way from here because that's how it came. Just so
57 was bad because usually 17 was bad too, and I was thinking we might go back.
Do you know 57 is now the new route for everybody in North Carolina to come in? That's how Waze is directing them, and the GPSs are bringing them in that way now.
Is that right? No wonder that's picked up so
Yep,
much.
it's insane. Well, and all the neighborhoods are there, but I mean, I saw, all the little, like the travel things on the tops of the cars and the travel trailers, and I mean, literally, there was just.
That country concert maybe too.
Oh my gosh, traffic in North Carolina. Hey, how are you?
Hi.
Traffic.
I heard about this seminar from Paul and Mary.
Good.
Good.
I just want to let you guys know I have handouts, but I'm not handing them out till the end, just because people tend to look, which is fine, but I just figured I'll just hand them out as a reminder at the end, so that way you have things.
Is it okay if I put my chair facing you?
Yeah, absolutely.
Rather than
Where are you going to be?
Oh, I guess I'm going to
Julie,
be.
I heard you broke your leg there.
Because I have to be in the camera.
Cracked a bone in my.
That's not good.
Are you hanging out?
I know you did.
Oh, what joint that must have been.
You need a little side table.
Yeah. Gosh, there's a lot of people come. Oh my gosh, I'm like, it would just be like 5 people,
We got here at 10. Somebody said 10. I don't know.
Pastor said 10. Wednesday night.
I knew it. I thought they changed it.
Yeah, you weren't wrong.
We got here at 10 and it was like, nobody coming to this? We were talking and I looked and I'm like, oh, it's 10:08.
Something's wrong, right?
Yes, we came up here.
We have these chair pads if anybody would like one. It really makes the metal chair very
Whack-a-mole.
Whack-a-mole, that's right. Whack about it. Little thing right here. Hi.
Okay.
Thank you. You good? I am your people. You're my people. I will learn. Are you aggressive? Wax on, wax off.
All right, go.
I got enough back there.
Please.
Me too, I should need one.
You do not.
Yes, I do. No matter how small it is. I always have a word.
What is it about the smell of coffee? It's like bacon, popcorn, and coffee.
Yes, brown.
You and Matthew are in on
French fries.
Fresh fries.
Yeah.
Thank you. It's cool, but it's not that warm outside. There's all.
It's not raining yet, is it?
No, it's on a countdown to 3 minutes and 45 seconds.
So be all serious, right?
You're serious.
Yeah, that's not serious.
That's why I clarified.
I know, right? So I know, who is your
This
friend?
is Linda, my sister-in-law.
Linda, I'm Valerie.
She was here one other time.
Yeah, I've seen you before. Hey, Paul. How are you? Good.
So sister-in-law as in sister to Tim? Or sister-in-law?
Sister-in-law to Tim. Tim's brother's wife.
Got you.
Yeah. I don't remember, you met Terry. No,
I think.
I was trying to think if you met Terry one time or
Well,
not.
we meet a lot of people, so.
Well, they were here a couple times.
Yeah.
We're not started yet. Well, you're good. We still got like 2 minutes till the countdown, okay?
3 minutes.
3 minutes?
2 minutes and 5 seconds.
It's very different being behind that as opposed to being in front of that.
Yeah, right. Turnabouts.
We were saying 10, 9, 8, 5.
Right?
Oh,
Hey, Marianne, how are you?
Will we most benefit from just taking notes or looking stuff up on our phones or online?
This is going to be a very informal, we talk through things. There's like everything I'm going to talk about is going to be on this that I'm going to hand out later. But if you want to take one and take notes on the back of it, but I just didn't want to hand them out because people tend to like look at this and not pay attention. So, yeah. But I'm going to have a bunch of these. And it's being recorded. So in case you needed to go back and review, because of course I'm the expert, right?
Oh, so this will be on our website. That'd be cool too.
Scary.
Scared for you.
Yeah, scary for me. Let me know when we're live, Mr. Pastor, sir.
I will let you know.
Anyway, so again, very informal. So, as we go through it, if you have questions, and I'll just wait because they'll probably want an intro to be recorded too.
And maybe some people still drive up too.
Yep. Yes, could you please silence your cell phones? Why?
I'll turn mine down and then I'll turn it up and then someone will say,
See, I never have my ringer on ever. So if anybody ever needs to get in touch with me, like emergency, they will never be able to. They have to come to my house and get me.
That's me, my daughter will say, you ever
I'm serious. Yeah, I mean,
I'm not a slave to my phone.
yeah, my watch is attached to my phone, so if I'm within distance, it'll like jingle me, but that doesn't always.
Yeah, that's a good thing.
Yeah, and that's okay. I don't necessarily need to be jingled.
And you can even say decline.
Yes, X. XUF.
If you are.
Hello. Welcome to the fraud seminar. Come on in and take a seat. We're very informal around here.
This seat's not safe. Yeah.
So let me know when we're live, sir.
23, 22.
Okay.
Now count down through.
17.
And then I'll go, like you said, Carla.
Plus the
I'll be like the producer, 10.
That should get red.
5.
Right, I will. Absolutely.
And
Hello. So I didn't do the deer in the headlights. So hello, thank you all for coming, and thank you, Pastor, for opening up the church for the fraud seminar. My name is Valerie Rogers, for those of you that don't know, and I work with Pinnacle Bank. I've been in banking for 15 years and in finance altogether for 35, so have seen quite a bit of fraud and all kinds of craziness throughout the years, and I will say it is on the rise. I think when we went through the pandemic, people had too much time at home, and the folks that really didn't have jobs really honed their skills on taking people's money illegally. So, sad to say that we're living in a very different environment now, but because I work at the bank, we have firsthand knowledge of a lot of the fraud tactics that are going on. And there have been, a few instances where folks in the church have approached me about situations, and it just seemed like a good time to just all get together, hopefully save folks from any type of problems that they might have going forward. But certainly, I'm giving you my business card. Email is the best way to reach me. If you ever have a question, it comes directly to my phone, and that way I can always answer any questions that you might have. So what I'd like to do, I do have a little handout that I will be handing out at the end of the seminar, and I will also have copies on the lobby table for folks that may not necessarily be here. You can pick it up, and if you need one, just let me know by email or whatever, or let Pastor know, we can email one out to you. So I want this to be informal, so if y'all have questions as I'm going through this, certainly feel free to just interact. Okay, I'm not just here to talk, I'm here to listen too, okay? One thing that I didn't put on here that I had a dream about it last night, so I wanted to address it right up front. How many of you all have your credit report monitored? Does anybody? Okay. It might be a good idea, and you can sign up for it multiple ways, but a lot of the banks actually have a way for you to access your credit score through the online banking. I know Our bank does, Pinnacle, Truist has it, because I used to work there. And basically, what they're able to do is to show you what your credit score is and just kind of like a high-level view of your credit report. It is not a pull on your credit, so it doesn't necessarily hurt your credit score to do that. And I know through Pinnacle, I'm actually able to see my credit history and, anything that's on there, if there's been any inquiries or anything like that.
Well, I don't have a monitor. I monitor my own every 4 months. I get one of the reports.
Okay.
And of course, it also froze my accounts too.
Okay. And that's a good idea too. I mean, a lot of folks, if you don't need to apply for any type of credit, there's no reason that you can't lock your credit report down so that nobody can access it. Okay.
The downside of freezing your account,
Yes.
you get a password, non-retrievable.
That's this long.
So if you lost it, I don't know what you do to get on.
It's really, really tough. And just so everybody knows, there's actually 3 credit reporting agencies. There's Equifax, Experian, and TransUnion. And everybody is eligible to get a free credit report once a year from annualcreditreport.com. So annualcreditreport.com will give you a free credit report, and it shows all 3 of those repositories. One reason you might want to monitor your credit score is because if there's ever a new account that's opened up, generally your credit score is going to drop. If you have a missed payment, credit score is going to drop. And it's a great way for you to just kind of watch your credit score, because if you haven't done anything and you see a drop in the score, you can, contact the repositories, get a copy of your credit report through the annualcreditreport.com and see what's going on. Because believe it or not, folks, all of our information's out there, okay? We may think that we have security, but guess what? Everything is out there. And I would also, your social security number is probably one of the most valuable things and the thing that needs to be protected most. Because if someone has your or your social security number, they can open credit in your name at maybe 3 or 4 months before you know about it. They're not making payments on it. It can be a real nightmare, and we've seen it. That's why you've got a lot of these credit agencies that are helping with identity theft and things of that nature, where you're paying for things.
Let me clarify one point. And you're right. You can get once a year they report from each of the 3. So like I said, I do mine every 4 months, so I can get. It's in January TransUnion. Then 4 months later, I get it from Equifax.
Okay.
And then 4 months later, so I'm getting one from each
Repository.
once a year. But I'm looking at my reports every 4 months. Even though the report basically saying they put it a little differently.
Right.
So you can spot changes like that. And I found one that wasn't mine.
Right.
I said, I don't have this account. And sure enough, within, I don't know how they got it removed.
You can dispute it. There's a dispute process you can go through. Yeah.
It's good to do that.
Yeah.
It's
And again,
a pain, but it's worth it.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, just freezing your credit report, if you can keep up with that 37-digit password code that you're going to have to be able to unlock it in case you do need to borrow money. But again, the credit report is kind of like, I don't know, it just shows everything that's going on in your life from a credit perspective, what you've got open, and things of that nature. So protect that credit report. Yes, ma'am.
And Valerie, I discovered that when my husband died a few months ago, I was told immediately contact the credit bureaus and indicate that he died, because so many people will use a deceased person's credit social security number.
Absolutely. And they're combing those obituaries and doing all kinds of crazy things. So yeah, credit report wasn't on my list, but I think I beat that horse to death. So protect that credit report. So just kind of want to go over some of the scams that we're seeing nowadays. One of the major problems is that, I don't know has anybody ever had fraud on their debit or credit card? Okay. So just so you know, everybody's like, well, I wonder where this happened. I mean, I just was at the gas station, or I was just at this restaurant. Multiple ways that the folks are getting your access. Number one, they can walk by you in Walmart. They have card readers on their pockets and they can collect the numbers, okay? They are also running algorithms that just kind of randomly throw numbers. And if they can get a hit on one of them, or they can get a purchase or something like that, boom, they're going to use that, okay? I recommend to my clients to use a credit card for everything, pay it off as you go. Because if there is any type of fraud on a credit card, the bank is going to set aside that dollar amount that you're disputing until they can determine whether or not it's fraudulent, okay? It's not your money. And I'd rather have the bank's money being used, even though I work for the bank, but I'd rather have their money used than my money being used, okay? So that's a recommendation for the debit card situation. I would also say, if you don't have online banking, that's probably one of the quickest and easiest ways to detect anything that is going on with your account. And I know a lot of folks are fearful about the online banking, thinking that they're opening things up for thieves to look at, okay? Number one, if you're doing it from your home through your secure router, the chances of them getting access to any of your information is pretty much nil, okay? Through your phone, we've got all kinds of protections on our phones, but I never generally am going to enter any kind of passwords or anything like that unless I'm on a secure network, okay? So, you know, when you go out to hotspots and things like that, I wouldn't check my balance out there, okay? So, again, online banking, I cannot tell you how many times we've had folks that are calling us saying, listen, I see a charge, and sometimes they'll start out at 99 cents, you know, thinking, oh, they'll never see this, or $2.99. I've even seen credits to clients' accounts, again, just to see if they actually get a hit on it. So if you see some kind of arbitrary little credit that pops up on your checking account, that's a red flag too. Reach out to your bank, okay? Because what they can do is block that debit card. We have the ability to put you in what's called a warm status, so you don't actually have to get a new card, but we just kind of put it on hold until you can determine whether or not it's an actual valid transaction, okay? And so moving into internet purchases and selling, yes ma'am?
I'm sorry, before you leave the credit card, is it, do you find more that happens on debit cards rather than credit cards?
Yes.
Okay.
More on debit than on credit. And I think because people are using those more, or you're probably using them in places that are not necessarily secure. So gas pumps, you know, the card readers are on those things like crazy. I mean, anytime, I've gotten to the point now where I'm using the tap. If you've got the tap to pay, that's a little bit easier. More secure. Because if you do the slide thing and there's a card reader in there, they've got your number. Okay, so if you've got the tap to pay, and eventually when we go to the tap to pay and or the chips, they are so heavily encrypted. The problem we've got right now is that these hackers have figured out how to pull that magnetic number, and then they can go ahead and use it with these card readers. So, yes ma'am.
So you're saying don't use the credit card, and then at home use your debit to pay off the credit card right then every time you make a purchase, probably the safest.
I don't use my debit card, I use my checking account. So yeah. So like, for example, I'll make a purchase at Walmart with my credit card. I'll go home and do on my online banking and I'll move money from my checking account onto the credit card. So I'm never carrying a balance. You know, so two things. I mean, it's time consuming, but I mean, I'm not spending $37 million on, you know, things every month. You know, I have a pretty limited, you know, number of transactions I'm doing, but it's doing two things for using that credit card. Number one, I've got that extra protection that it's not coming out of my account until I've, you know, confirmed it's a valid transaction. But I'm also earning rewards points, and most credit cards are going to do that. And if you're paying as you go, I mean, I've got everything drafting through my credit card, and I'm getting $500, $600, $700 a year back just for paying my day-to-day bills. Plus, I've got that extra fraud protection. Okay? Yes, ma'am.
The other thing, I bought a wallet that has the RFID, so if somebody's walking past you, they can't.
Correct.
That blocks it.
Yep. Yep. The other thing you can do is wrap your cards in tinfoil. So, yeah.
When I take my card out, I'm like,
yeah. But again, the tap to pay or the chip is going to be your more secure way to actually pay for any types of transactions. Okay? And with debit/credit cards, when we're doing any type of internet purchases, I would not put a debit card out there. If you're going to do a purchase, definitely use a credit card. Again, because those sites, and the other thing is, as you're going into your computer and you're going to a site to make a payment, make sure you see that little lock symbol, which means it's a secure encrypted site for you as you're entering all of your information. Okay? So let's talk a little bit about not only buying things, but also selling things. So if you're doing things like on Facebook or Craigslist, or you're a vendor of services or anything like that, and you're selling things or providing a service for something, number one, be careful about divulging any of your personal information. Okay? If you are selling something online, I would make sure that you are going to be meeting at the bank for them to give you cash. for whatever it is you're selling. If someone is sending you a cashier's check to pay for something, cashier's checks are the most highly forged documents these days. What the fraudsters are able to do is to take that check. I don't know how they do it. They got special equipment, but they take out the person's name that it's payable to and the dollar amount, and they put in their information, and then boom, you're depositing that check into your account and spending the money, and/or some of the criminals are asking you, hey, listen, I've got a buddy that I need to pay out of this money to help out with the services. Can you send him money out of your account from this cashier's check that you've got? And then the cashier's check is no good. Okay? So cashier's check, we have 2-week holds on cashier's checks for clients or for non-clients or people that we don't know. The other thing is some banks in the area will confirm that they did in fact issue that cashier's check. So I've got a client that, is taking something over to, let's say, Truist. Truist can call our bank and say, do you have a check on your records that shows this dollar amount and this kind of thing? Okay. So yeah, cashier's checks, people used to think they're as good as cash. No, they're not. The other thing I would say is be really careful about making payments to even your normal folks. Like I have a client that owns a property management company. All of her mail gets delivered to a mailbox that's on Sea Mountain Highway. So somebody took her mail out, got her routing number and account number, and perpetrated fraud on her account. Okay? So sending things to mailboxes that are not secure, I do everything through online bill pay. And the payments that typically they're going electronically, but if a paper check is going out, always make sure that on the other side, they've got a secure locked mailbox, okay? And I know it's a lot of work, but I'll tell you what, it only takes one time for somebody to get into your account for, money to go out, and you're like, oh my goodness. Because believe me, if they get a check, they're not gonna do it for a small dollar amount. They're gonna do it for a large dollar amount. And we have found that there are fraudsters out there that are creating business accounts to dump a check into that they have stolen out of somebody else's mailbox, okay? Now, banks have very strict standards on opening business accounts. Hopefully, they're all following them. But we, here at Pinnacle, we have to have like the tax ID number. We have to have who's the registered agent. We have to have the articles of organization. Not every bank is as cautious as that, okay? So again, when you're sending checks, even to a business, I would always make sure that you're either walking in hand delivering it or that you are doing it through an electronic payment. Okay, does that make sense? Okay. Does everybody here have online banking? Okay. Yeah, okay, good. It's a challenge. For me, it's like the first stop for anything. You see everything.
Well, like I say, online banking is only on my computer. I don't put anything on my cell phone.
And that's fine.
Because it's, as you say, cell phones are too easily hacked.
Yes.
And you don't even know it. So nowhere on my phone should be any of my passwords or any banking information.
Right. So, yeah, and let's segue into cell phones. So how many of you have ever gotten like spam email, and that says click a link? Spam texts. Are you getting spam texts now? Oh my gosh. All of a sudden I'm getting like this, hello? And I'm like, spam, report spammer. Do not click on anything on your phone or on your computer that has a link attached to it unless you know where it's coming from. We have such high standards at our bank as far as phishing attempts are concerned, because there are things we have like millions a day that are coming through. And at Pinnacle, they even send little test ones out for us to kind of test the associates. If we click on that, we get a $1,000 fine for doing that, okay? So just so you know how serious this is, do not click on a link. I'm always getting email from someone who has a very similar name to you, okay? And I reached out to Terry when I saw the first one. I'm like, change your password on your email because somebody's got something that's coming through that's really, really close. So yeah, when it comes to clicking, don't do it, okay?
We can open it up, just don't go further.
You can open the email, but don't click on any of those links unless it's from a source you know. Yes, ma'am.
I do click on them because not a lot of them, but once in a while to see just what is this.
Don't do it.
And what will happen to me for doing it?
Well, someone could gain access to your computer and your
I have to do it
passwords.
on the cell phone. Never do it on.
Same thing though, they can gain access to your phone. The cell phone is a computer, exactly what Paul is saying. So if you're clicking on your phone, same thing.
So never click.
You can click on the email, but you don't want to click on any of the links that are embedded.
It's funny, so normal stuff.
Yep, do not,
Don't touch it.
from a safety perspective.
One of my biggest perpetrators on spam is Terry.
Yeah,
I don't know why.
yeah, I don't know why either.
Yeah, but that's why I don't use cell phones that much on that. On a computer, you can hover over the email name and you can see what the address is, and you know.
Exactly.
So that's
You
what,
can do it on the components too now.
yeah.
You click on the name at the top.
But I would just be very careful
Just
about
delete them
that.
all. Yeah.
And then, like I said, realizing your cell phone is a computer. So, yeah. So clicking on any of those things is really challenging. The other thing that we've seen, and it's been a couple of years, but it happened just about 6 months ago to another client. On their computer, all of a sudden they get a pop-up from Microsoft. There's a problem on your computer, but I can help you with it. Click here. They click there. And as soon as they click there, guess what they've done? They have opened up their computer for those hackers to get in. They now have access to not only everything
This
that's
happened to me.
Yeah,
And I called my computer guy and he said, don't do anything to it. Bring it down to
exactly.
unplug it.
Yep. And the challenge is they get your IP address. They get all of your passwords. We've had one of the scariest scams is that the person got with one of our clients and said, go to your online banking because we deposited money into your account and we need to show you so you can send us the money back. Well, what they had done is when they gained access to the computer, they were able to go into the client's online banking and move money from their own savings account into their checking account. So it looked like, oh my gosh, I have $3,000 in my checking account that's unaccounted for. Not really thinking, oh gosh, it came from my savings account. So they're racing down to the drugstore to get 37 gift cards to pay them back and give them the numbers and stuff like that. So here's the thing. Give me 1 second. I'll get you. But if you see anything pop up on your computer, number one, don't click on it. Not even out of curiosity. But reach out to your computer guy. Reach out to Microsoft. Reach out to whoever the pop-up is coming from. And I will tell you too, your bank will never ask you for your social security number, okay? So if anybody ever calls you and says, you've had fraud on your account, what's your PIN number? What's your social security number? And I will tell you, about 5 years ago, I had a credit card company, my credit card company that called me and said, we've had fraud on your account. Can you confirm your PIN number? I'm like, yeah, here it is. And I was like, as soon as I hung up, I was like, oh my gosh, what did I do? And I called my bank, and sure enough, they had not sent it. So even someone who's in the industry, you know, it's easy to fall prey to that, but just fix it as quick as you can. I'm sorry, you had a question.
More comment on the computer side of things when it comes to that link set. A good antivirus will stop that from happening.
Yes.
I have a company that I've been using for many years. It's ESET, E-S-E-T.
E-S-E-T is the company, okay.
32. They have a very streamlined antivirus. It doesn't impact the performance of your computer at all.
Okay.
But it sits back there, and if you click on those links in those emails, it will stop you.
Okay, good.
Hard stop. It will not let you get to that site.
Okay.
So
that's good.
It's a good antivirus on your computer at home is
ESET.
But the
ESET
cell phone, what
32.
about the cell phone?
They actually have a cell phone version, but cell phones are harder to lock down because of the way they work.
And Pastor, what about you? I mean, you do a lot of computer work. Do you have any recommendations for software that would help with that?
Yeah, actually, if you're doing a computer, then they have, they actually recommend on Windows, the Microsoft, whatever comes native with it is as good as any of the new ones you buy.
Right.
Yeah, but adding ESET, that 32 actual antivirus on top of that, it works together. Yeah. Windows Defender. Windows Defender, it helps, but it doesn't stop everything. I would add to, you're saying, unless you know where it's coming from, that statement, because a lot of times people say, you know, hear that and think, okay, I see my email, it says it's coming from Microsoft, I see the Microsoft logo. The big one I hear a lot from people is the Geek Squad.
Yeah.
Best Buy, Amazon, and things like that. And it has the logo, it looks just like it.
Yes.
But I think like Steven or someone saying, if you take your mouse and hover over it, it should say, when it says from bestbuy.com. They're even clever enough to put bestbuy.com They can change it.
xr432.com,
Yeah.
which means it's a subnet of some scam site.
Yeah.
You know, so they're very, very clever.
They can change that from line to where it shows like Amazon.com, and that's what you see. But when you click on the from line itself, it'll expand out and show the true email address, and that email address will be gibberish.
Exactly.
Amazon.com.
Yeah.
Or something, and then there'll be another dot, and then it'll be something else.
Right.
So it's that's how they do it. The other thing I was going to say too is there's a YouTube channel by a guy named Jim Browning.
Jim Browning.
Yes.
YouTube channel with a guy named Jim Browning. Browning.
And what he does is basically counter scam.
Okay.
He won't say exactly what he does for a living, but he is able to get onto people's computers, and he goes onto the scammers' computers.
Oh, wow.
And he watches what they do, and he stops these scams. But his videos really detail out how the scammers do these refund scams that you're talking about, and that sort of thing. And you can actually see it in action, and understand how they socially manipulate their caller.
Yes.
To get them to do these, repaying you with
funds that they're giving
cards,
to you.
gift cards and
exactly.
stuff.
Yeah.
And he fights that hard.
Okay.
Most of them come out of India.
Yeah.
Well,
it's fun to watch.
And getting examples.
It's fun to watch it because of the way he describes everything and what he's doing to them.
Right.
It's kind of a payback.
Yeah.
But it's also interesting because it kind of describes what's happening, how it happens, and gives you a better idea of what it's like to be on the bad end of it.
On the bad end of it, yeah.
And you can actually see what they're doing, the scripts they're using.
Right. Well, and one of the other things that these fraudsters are doing too is 9 times out of 10, has anybody ever gotten like a call or an email that, your grandson's in trouble and, he's in jail and, you need to send money as soon as possible and all that kind of thing? Guess what? Call your grandson, first of all, or somebody else in the family to see where they are, because 9 times out of 10, you're not going to hear it from somebody other than a family member, right? But what these they prey on the emotions and the panic that we hit, and like, oh my gosh, I have to help them. I have to help them immediately. So that immediately you're seeing people do that kind of thing. I had a client that came in when I was at another bank, and she asked me if we could get money back that she had wired. And I said, well, can you tell me what happened? And she said, well, yes, now I can. And I thought, okay. She came in, she had one Publishers Clearinghouse. And she came in with this, I'm talking like a leather-bound 37-page legal portfolio document. You've won and all this stuff, and you need to send us this amount of money in order to get your winnings. She had sent around $80,000 from one bank and $100,000 from our bank. Well, my first question to her was, do you play Publishers Clearinghouse? And she did. So she thought it was legitimate.
But to give people money to give money,
but I will tell you that people, okay, you're never going to get something for nothing, okay, number one. But they're never going to ask you for money up front, okay? So if anybody ever asks you for money up front, the answer is no.
Yeah.
So the good news is this woman, her daughter worked in Washington, D.C. for the FBI. So I said, hand all this over to the FBI and let them pursue it. I don't even know the end of the story, but, these folks are getting extremely crafty with what they're doing, and they're getting professional in what they're doing as well. So just,
Valerie, I had on my bank statement from Apple.com, and like Tim will play golf on his phone, and I said, did you buy golf balls or something? And he's like, no, not lately. I was like, well, there's an $8.63,
charge.
Debit, on, he said, I haven't done anything. So then I called the bank. Well, then the next day, there's like 3 of them.
Yep.
The next day after that, there's like 9 of them.
Right.
I was like,
They start out small.
This is like out of control.
Well, and the other thing that you need to know about debit card fraud when something like that happens. So number one, if you have an Apple account, the bank will see charges from Apple, right? So you have to be very number one, as soon as you see those charges, get to the bank. The other thing is, when you get a new debit card reissued, make sure that your bank stops any recurring charges that you've got on that old debit card, because guess what? They flip over to the new one, okay? It's a hassle to have to contact those companies and give them the new debit card, but that Apple, I had a client that had the exact same thing happening and didn't realize, because we didn't really, our debit, this was years ago, we weren't aware that those recurring charges automatically transfer, so that clients have the convenience of not having to contact those folks again. So make sure that all recurring charges that are on an old debit card get canceled out, okay, when you go to your bank. Some banks do it automatically, some banks don't. Make sure that yours does.
That's just debit or also credit?
Debits.
Only debit. Okay.
Yeah, because hey, if they're going to give you money, hey, take it, right? They can't pull any money off. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about government imposter scams. So if there's a payment that's due to you, like from the IRS or from South Carolina tax, office, they're not going to contact you and say, you need to pay us in order to get this money back, okay? You will never, should never, from a reputable company, have to pay money to get money back. And if you're going to have to do that, get the money first, wait 2 weeks till it clears the bank, and then pay them, kind of thing. But again, if you have any questions, and I will say, anybody that has ever been defrauded of any money, didn't we all kind of have a gut feeling that something wasn't right? Yeah. So my advice would be follow your gut. If you feel like it just doesn't feel right, just stop in the middle of that transaction and reach out to the company or to the government entity, to just find out what's going on. You may be on hold for 3 hours, but you know what? Just make sure that you get the information that you need before you start sending money to anybody. And same thing with debt collectors. I'm at an age now where there's a lot of medical bills coming in, and it's kind of like which ones are legit and which ones aren't. If you're getting an email one, no. I need to have a bill come into my mailbox, and then I'm going to call that person if I don't recognize who it's coming from. Because a lot of times, if you're going to a doctor, they may have to send out to have somebody else do some work or something like that. So just make sure that you are reaching out, even if you do get a paper bill, to just make sure it's legitimate and that it is an actual bill, number one, that you owe, but they're the actual provider for the service that came through. So what about wrapping your car? Has anybody ever approached you about, hey, let me wrap your car, I'll pay you $500 a week? No? Oh, wow. Okay, so it's a thing, Stephen. Okay.
Down in Florida, it happened, but
yeah. So people like, I don't know, like Linta Roofing just comes to mind because I just drove past them today. So a sign, like Linta calls you, hey, we'll pay you $500 a week to put this sign on the side of your car, kind of thing. So what they do is they send you money and then they tell you, we're going to send an installer over, just pay him out of the money that we sent you, right? Okay? Wrong. Don't ever pay out of money that people have sent you. Number one, it's typically going to be coming back to you, but you're depositing the check into your account, and guess what comes back to them on the back of that check that they have? Sometimes you've got a routing number and your account number, or on the back of that check when it gets canceled and goes back to them. So be careful with that. Yes, ma'am. I'm sorry.
Are the banks trying to do something to avoid that? Is there any way they can?
Here's what we do. So we know most of our clients pretty well, okay? So if we see a check that's coming through that isn't familiar to us, I know that at Pinnacle, we do try to give them advice. And number one, we're going to put a hold on it. We're going to put like probably a 2-week hold on something like that, okay? Number two, we're going to ask, how did you get contacted by this person? How do you know this person that's deposited into your account? Were they referred to you by somebody? Did you check with the person that they were referred by? That kind of thing to make sure it was a legitimate referral. There's a limited amount that banks can do for any of this, unfortunately. And part of the reason we see bank fees, number one, is because we got to offset this fraud. I mean, we're filing thousands of fraud cases every single day. And most of them are smaller, but they're not all smaller. Right now it's summertime, so we're seeing a lot of fraudulent checks that are coming through where someone takes a check, they wash the name, wash the dollar amount, put a new one in, they send a runner in to cash the check, And if we're not double checking with the business client, which of course we are, but that's how we're catching a lot of the fraud. The other thing that they're doing now, which is just infuriating, don't tell your fraudster people to do this, but they're calling the bank, pretending that they're the business owner. I was pointing to the camera in our shut-ins. They're calling the bank, the fraudsters are, and changing the phone number. Say, you know, this, and they have information. They know the address of the business. They may even know the tax ID number of the business. And they will say, this is so-and-so calling from ABC Company. We need to change our phone number. And then 2 days later, they send a runner in with a fake washed check. We call the business owner on the updated phone number to confirm it. And it's the fraudster on the other end of the line. So we now have got protection in places for any time anybody calls in to, you know, change a phone number. We're digging deeper, we're going even further. And a lot of these folks that are coming in to cash the checks, unfortunately, are homeless people. So they're sending in these homeless people to cash the checks and saying, I'll give you 10% of this check if you get the check cashed. So the fraudsters aren't even getting arrested. It's the poor homeless people that are getting arrested, you know? So, I'm sorry? The mules, yep, that's exactly what they're called. Anybody ever, yes ma'am?
Is it, I know it's not safe to, if you have a family member that has a birthday, to send cash in the mail, but is it safe to send a check in the mail now?
I don't.
Yeah, we don't either.
I don't. I mean, there's so many ways, like you can pay through Zelle, or Venmo. You know, there's a lot of ways that you can do that, and then you've got that person-to-person contact with that kind of thing. I never put a check in the mail. I mean, you know, if for some reason I can't make it to church, I'll bring the check to church. You know what I mean? Because the church is one of the few places that I write a check. Most everything else that I do is done electronically. Praise the Lord, I don't have a lot of bills, so I'm really grateful for that.
And the church does it electronically now too.
That's right, exactly. Okay, another big thing that's going on right now, and it's targeting a lot of our retired folks and elderly folks, there's a lot of romance scams going out there. And, you know, the pictures that they send you of the, you know, wonderful person with whom you're communicating probably doesn't look anything like that. Probably not even the right gender, you know, whatever it is. You know, if you're making friends online, be very careful, you know, especially if they start asking for money. I've got an elderly client that is sending money for a heart surgery for a grandchild of somebody over in Uruguay, you know, and here's the thing, you know, when we're very diligent, as most banks are, on questioning when people are sending money, especially to another country. You know, how do you know this person? That kind of thing. And we actually had to close an account of a woman who continued to wire money out, and then she would come in and file fraud claims. And it's like, we're talking hundreds of thousands of dollars. And, you know, we're just not going to do that. So just really be careful if someone, there's a lot of ways to meet people. Church is the best place. But I mean, be careful with those online, anything online right now. And again, the you won, Publishers Clearinghouse, you won. We need you to send us gift cards.
I see Harbor Freight.
Yes, oh my soul.
You won this, claim this.
Right, right. And one of the things that we're seeing a lot of in the bank as well, and it's coming more from business clients, most banks require that clients come into the bank to sign a wire, okay? We are one of the banks that if we know our client, we will take their instructions over the phone or by email or something like that. But we are seeing a lot of folks that are hacking into email accounts and sending wire information or changing wire information. If you ever have to wire money to an attorney for closing, generally they're emailing you the instructions, right? Guess what? If that attorney's email address gets hacked, that hackster can change that routing number and change that account number, and you've wired your money for closing to whoever and not the attorney's office. So before we wire any substantial sums of money, we're always ensuring that the client has contacted the attorney's office directly by phone and spoken to somebody that they know there to confirm the routing number and the account number. Yes, no.
Is PayPal something that's secure?
I will say, they say they're secure, but I will tell you that they're one of the most perpetrated as far as fraud is concerned that we're seeing in the bank. I don't use PayPal just because of the fraud that I've seen. Agreed, right, over here? Yeah.
My mother got scammed through PayPal.
Yeah.
So is Zelle better than?
Zelle's better, because Zelle's direct. And what happens is, for example, if you sign up, so if you're signing up for Zelle through the Zelle site, it's actually more secure to sign up for Zelle through your bank site, because you're going through the encryption of the bank in addition to the encryption of Zelle. So you've got a double layer of protection there. So account numbers aren't floating out there. And again, it's crazy, but everybody is getting scammed these days. And people are, ransoming the ransomware that's going on and things like that. So there was a company the other day that handles payment processing for banks. Their entire file got compromised, and everybody's account numbers and routing numbers and everything is out there. So it's one of those things that companies are getting scammed. I mean, they're getting perpetrated by these hacksters. And whether or not they're using them for ransomware, they're able to pull money out of these accounts. So it's a scary world in which we live right now, And the electronics capabilities that we have are good, and they're good when they're used for good, But I honestly think that it would be fantastic if these people that are doing all of this scam thing would put their powers to good instead of evil, right? Because think about the knowledge that these folks have, And in fact, a lot of the tech companies are hiring these scammers to come and sit in and show them how they're doing what they're doing so that they can help combat it, and they're helping to build the protections and things like that. But I really and truly think it's only going to continue to get worse. And my best advice to everybody is follow your gut. If you feel like something doesn't feel right, just stop right there in your tracks and reassess what you're doing, confirm who you're sending the money to or spending it with or whatever. Because you know what? The Lord gives us protection. Protection is of the Lord, right? And if you get that little thing in the back of your head, then that's a warning sign. That's a red flag for you to just kind of perk up your ears and pay a little bit more attention. I did want to address a question that somebody brought up about the IRS. Can the IRS seize your bank account? Yes, they can. Yes, they can. Whether you give them your routing number and account number or not, because whenever you open an account, your routing number and account number, it's all over the bank system and things like that. And the IRS, if you owe the IRS money, they have every right to seize and or freeze the money that you've got in your account. We get notices for business clients. 9 times out of 10, they're in error. However, we can't not follow. And if there's a levy placed on your account, we have to send the money that has been requested or whatever money is in your account. So I would say if you do owe the IRS money, be a good neighbor, reach out, call them, set up a payment plan, that kind of thing. But don't just ignore it, because otherwise they're going to freeze your accounts. Okay, you had a question about that, yeah, okay. Yes, sir.
Just to get back to the routing numbers and stuff.
Sure.
If you have your credit, your Equifax and all that, if you have that frozen, can they still? That's not associated with routing numbers.
So when it comes to the credit report, the main reason that you would want to have your credit report locked down is so no one has access to opening new accounts with your Social Security number. Okay? Because if someone has your Social Security number, typically anytime someone wants to open an account, they're going to check your credit. Okay? And they're going to need your Social Security number to do that. So if you have your credit locked down, then people can't open credit in your name that you don't know about, not make the payments on it, and then destroy your credit, and then also have you owing money. Okay? It doesn't really have anything to do with the routing number and account number. It's more the protection of that Social Security number. Okay? Yeah, and I know we all have drafts that are happening and things like that. Even reputable companies, I really don't give my routing number and account number out to anybody. I'm doing everything through my credit card and then just paying it as I go, because again, it's just that extra layer of protection, and I'm greedy. I want the points, I mean, I'm paying my cell phone bill, I'm paying my insurance, I'm paying, anybody that will not charge me a fee to use a credit card for payment, I will pay that way, because that's that extra layer of protection.
Like you said, some of the bank credit cards have like 5% back or points.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
So a lot of them are starting to charge the 3-4% convenience fee. So what do you do in a situation like that?
I will, I do have one place that charges that, and it's a very reputable company. It's a phone company that I know, and so I did provide my routing number and account number for that, okay? I'm just like, so freaked out. I see so much, you know? I mean, it's really hard when you work in the banking industry because there are so many different ways, and it's like, okay, so you can get really paranoid really quickly. But again, for me, it was, like I said, a very reputable phone company, and so I felt okay with doing that. But that's the only one, and a life insurance company that's been drafting for 20 years. So, yeah.
Would you recommend opening an adjunct checking account that you only put a minimal amount of money into, or?
You can do that, but a lot of banks don't have checking accounts that you don't have to keep minimum, minimum balances, or you don't get service fees.
Right.
Pinnacle does, but just saying.
Or keep the money in your savings and then transfer the money over to checking as need be?
I mean, again, you're opening up your checking account if you're giving that routing number and account number out,
They can only get so much out, right, if you did give.
True, but how many of us have overdraft lines of protection on our checking accounts, right? Or credit cards maybe backing up our checking accounts. So, I mean, guess what? All of a sudden you owe whatever's your line of credit. Just being honest.
No, that's a good point.
So, it's just, I just try not to give out that routing number and account number at all costs, unless it's somebody that I know, no. It's like I could invite them to dinner kind of thing, Well, it's funny because one of the parameters for us is, do you know your client? Like, if you know your client, you would invite them over for dinner. So that's kind of what we use at Pinnacle when we're trying to think, okay, would I trust to do a wire for this person? Would I trust to transfer money? Would I trust to change a phone number? Do I know them well enough to invite them over for dinner? So, yeah.
One of the things also, like you mentioned bill pay, I do two things in bill pay. One, a lot of them is automatic draft through utility companies, things like that, which should be relatively safe. Right. Also, when I used to type in accounts, it happened some years ago. I was rushing to come down here, and I just typed in the figure without thinking. I typed in .00, which doesn't work on a lot. You put, let's say $120.01 works. If you put $120.00, that .00 translates to 00. No .00.
So $1,200, $12,000.
So yeah,
yeah. Be careful on your online bill pay.
So I used to review without that was in the rush, and it happened over a weekend, holiday weekend. So my
Tuesday morning, you're like, oh my god.
Oh yeah. The bank was zeroed out from $120 is now
$12,000. Yeah.
And fortunately, I have notifications, but that did not come in until Tuesday.
Right. Yeah.
And it went to a company. I determined that's what services. They cashed a stupid check.
Oh my goodness.
How many checks did he get for $100?
Yeah, $12,000. Yeah.
And it was a nightmare. Back. Fortunately, I contacted a local lady in the bank. She took it upon herself as, hey,
we'll get it for you.
This is a mission for me, so.
Yeah.
And she did. I mean,
good.
It took about a couple of days, but.
Yeah.
Unbelievable.
Yeah, and I mean, we're all in a hurry. We all live really busy lives, don't we? I mean, and how many times, I did the same thing. I sent money that I should have sent to the utility company, to my mortgage company, which is completely different than the utility company. It's like, well, we're not giving you that money back because you're going to owe it to us eventually. So, I'm waiting for it to kind of all work itself out. So, yeah, be careful with the online banking. Yes, ma'am.
Mallory, so when Danny died, I put everything in auto draft thinking that was brilliant and easy.
Sure.
But if I then notify all the companies, no more auto draft, take it out of a credit card, they still have that old number.
That's
so
correct.
I really need to get a new checking account then.
Well, and that's a good point. And actually, because anybody that's got that routing number and account number, if you do decide to switch over to a completely different system, if you're comfortable with who had that information, you wouldn't necessarily have to do it, because I know it can be a bit of a hassle and a bit of a challenge and things like that with changing accounts. However, if you have any doubt in your mind that there might be somebody that's going to go in and capture some money, or somebody has that routing number and account number that you're not really sure of, absolutely, all day long. Okay? Because here's the thing. When it comes to ACH drafts, because you have provided that routing number and account number, some banks are reluctant to file that as a fraud case. because you have provided that information to them, okay? If it's a debit card, we know all the scams that are going on about that. And especially if it's a draft that comes out of your account on a regular basis. And all of a sudden, instead of $50, they're charging you $500. Well, you must have just had extra services, okay? Yeah, so just be careful with that. If you trust those folks that have those numbers, then you wouldn't need to do it, okay? Yeah, all right?
Yeah, bank can also mind, if I have a repeating account, a dollar amount, let's say, I was getting truckloads of mulch, for example, let's say it's $80. After my second $80, I get notice. Hey,
Yeah.
Are you sure this is you?
Right.
So which is set that up, get the notification, yeah, this is not a safeguard.
Right. It is a safeguard, but I will say, so I literally, like just this past week, got a pop-up. We see that you spent da-da-da-da-da at such and such whatever store. Click this link to confirm. Well, it wasn't from my bank. I hadn't been at that store, so I just reported that text as a spam. Because if I clicked on that link, guess what? They had all my phone information. Yeah. So if you've got that with your bank, you'll recognize those texts that say, yeah, click yes to move forward, click no to opt out. Okay?
Yes, it's not just on Texas, too, it's on Facebook. There was a friend of mine who I worked with contacted me online on the Facebook, who I thought was her.
Right.
And it sounded just like her and everything like that. And she had a voicemail and everything. But the person, he or she, must have went into her account and got all the information, says this is legit and everything like that. I need help, send money, that kind of stuff. So
right.
I'm like, wait a minute, this doesn't sound like, how's the kids?
Right.
Oh, the kids are fine. I was like, what are their names again? I'm just testing the person.
Right.
Oh, Johnny, and no, that's not the person. So
right.
It's like, okay, so I had to test it because that person sounded like her, looked like her.
Right.
And on Facebook, you can chat, and I was like, okay, that's not the person. And she wouldn't be asking me money anyway, so it's like, okay.
Right. Like I said, if it feels wrong,
yeah.
I really, to be honest with you, I am on no social media.
Right.
I am not on anything. So if you ever try to contact me, the only way to do it is through email or through my phone, because I had a situation that happened 15 years ago, and it's like, it is not happening again, and I shut down everything. And Kendall's actually off of it as well. Question?
I'm getting constant UPS fraud or FedEx on my phone.
Yep.
Constantly.
Yep, and all those spam calls too. So, okay, let's talk about spam calls. Don't answer them. If it's important and it's somebody that really needs to get in touch with you, they will leave a message. Because if you pick up that phone and they say, is this Dolly? And you say yes, guess what? They've got another message that says, is this Dolly? Would you like to purchase? Da, 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 da. Can you give us authorization? Yes. Because you said yes.
You answer this is, or I am. You never say yes on them.
Yes, absolutely. See, I just said yes. Sorry. Oh man, I'm stuck.
So what would you say? Why are you asking that? Say yes.
No, yeah, it's when you answer that phone call, when they ask, I get it all the time because on my business line, I kind of have to answer every phone call.
You do.
Regardless of whether it says spam or not, I can hang up. But when they ask, is this, whoever, you just say this is, or
who's calling?
I am.
Yeah.
You don't say the word yes. You can confirm with other words, but it's not the same as agreeing to a contract. Think of it, they're asking you, are you willing to purchase a new Mercedes for me? Don't say yes.
Or my pig farm.
Yeah, just answer it, this is.
Interesting.
This is, because that doesn't translate
to a contractual.
Another confirmation. Yeah. This is, what confirmation is
How
that?
about leaving your voice note on your phone? Is it dangerous to say, hi, you've reached Dolly?
I don't leave my name.
You don't? Okay.
No. I don't leave my number.
Okay.
Actually, I take it back. I say this is Valerie, I think is what I say on mine.
Yeah.
Yeah, I say this is Valerie, but I don't give my full name. I don't give my number or any of that kind of thing either.
Well, your number.
I mean, they're calling my number, but is it them or is it a robot that's calling it to detect it and see if it's legit and there's a real live person there?
The problem with the robocall part of it is just the fact that the phone is answered is a yes.
That's
it's
true.
An active phone number.
That's
it doesn't matter whether or not you answer it or your voicemail answers it or what you have on the voicemail. The fact that the line was picked up puts a yes to the robocall, and the network takes your number from there.
Yeah.
There's two good ways of getting past it. There was a system years ago for landlines that my brother actually had it for a long time, that when you called him, when he picked up for a brief moment, you got that doo-doo-doo, this line has been disconnected alert. That puts out to all the computers that it's a disconnected line and it cancels that number.
That's cool.
Cell phones, you don't quite have that ability anymore.
Can we go do?
But well, actually, what I did was I had queued up a YouTube of that sound.
Okay.
On my computer. So when I got those numbers and I answer the phone, there's a brief silence and you get that kind of weird clicking sound.
Yep.
And then I hit play on the computer and let it play through my phone.
And then they know.
It helps occasionally, but some of them are starting to just be brute force. It's random dialing numbers.
Yeah, it is. And the bad thing is that, I mean, my phone's on do not call gov, right? You're not supposed to stop all that.
Yeah.
Well, so I went on the website and I was reading about that because the government is like, okay, so you need to report the number that's calling. Well, there's 37 a day that are calling anymore, so
and they're spoofed numbers.
Yeah.
Here's the problem with that. AT&T has a way of stopping spoofed numbers. They won't implement it because of the logistics behind all of it. But that's the problem, the spoofed numbers. You're getting phone calls from, in South Carolina, it's great because the area code happens to be half the state.
Right.
So you're getting phone calls from places that are obviously not close to you.
Right.
And your people that you know are in the immediate area. It's going to come up as Longs, it's going to come up as North Beach or something like that, if it don't come up with their name. If you're getting something from Aiken and you don't know anybody from Aiken.
Right.
But the reason you're doing that is because they're hitting they're spoofing your number. They're calling from overseas.
Yeah.
And they're making the call ID look like a local number with their computer system. Yeah. And that local number is always going to be your area code, which is the same area code that you have, plus a prefix that should be close by in that area code. It doesn't work out real well because it can be hundreds of miles away.
Right. But they don't know that.
And then, because two things happen on the back end of that. I get phone calls from people constantly that says, you just called this number, and no, I didn't call that number.
Right.
Well, somebody called from this number. Well, no, you probably got spoofed from somebody else with my number because the computer just randomly generated an active number.
Yeah.
So it's tough, but the worst part about it is that the phone companies have a way of stopping that.
Right.
They just don't want to turn it on.
Yeah. Well, I mean, like I said, if it's not a number that doesn't pop up in my system to somebody that I know, I just don't answer it. And then I check and see if there's any voicemails. Surprisingly, there was legitimate one that came through, so, but, so if anybody leaves me a message, I don't call you back for 3 days, that's why, okay? All right, any other questions, concerns? Pastor, do you have any? Oh, I'm sorry, Marianne.
It seems like more and more restaurants in the area and in California where we were are saying you can get a discount if you pay cash rather than use your credit card.
Yep.
Yeah.
Because and that's something that a lot of banks are starting to offer now. Because a lot of the restaurants we even have an auto parts store that is using that. Because they're being charged anywhere from 2 to 3% for us using the card, depending on what type of card. If it's a debit card, plain debit card with rewards, credit card with rewards. Because guess who's paying the rewards? Actually, your merchant is paying those rewards. Your business owner is paying those rewards. So what they're doing is they're passing that charge along to the customer so that they don't get charged that. Okay, so that is and I see that as something that's going to be coming down the pike as well. Just because, it's expensive for people to use the credit cards, but it's also convenient for us. That's why I said whenever I'm setting up drafts, if I don't have to pay a fee to do it, I'll set up a draft on my credit card. Otherwise, I'm not going to do it. Yeah, but it's a newer thing that's come out for business owners that they'll say, okay, here's a price if you're paying cash, here's a price if you're paying by credit card.
You see that on gas stations. Look at all the Circle K gas stations.
Yeah.
You see a cash price, you see a credit card.
Yeah. So it just depends. I'm not going to be carrying a lot of cash around because I just don't. And that's the other thing. If you've got, Because of the crazy world that we're living in these days, you know, and the FDIC and the SVB banks that have gone under and things like that, you know, check with your bank and make sure, you know, what their rating is. You know, you can tell banks should be transparent in providing you with information on how their portfolio is dispersed as far as what they're invested in, so that you know, for example, the SVB bank that fell through, they were so heavily invested in the tech industry. I mean, every business owner, every new startup pretty much, you know, was going to this bank. The other challenge that they had is that, I want to say, and I'm not going to quote numbers, but like a huge proportion of their portfolio was over and above the FDIC insurance, okay? So there were a lot of folks that had funds in there that weren't insured. Now, the government did cover that, but you know who pays for that?
We do.
We do, because the banks are paying for it, so then we're passing that cost along. Some banks, inclusive of Pinnacle, we do have an ability to protect money over and above that 250 rate by sweeping money out to different banks, you know, around the world that have to have, around the U.S., that have to have a superior rating with the IDC in order to participate in the program. So if you do have substantial cash in deposits, there's a way to structure it with beneficiaries, with co-signers, you know, co-owners on the account in different ways. So if you do have substantial cash in a bank, number one, make sure you're getting a good rate, because right now rates are sitting 4 to 5% on money market accounts. But also that you've got that FDIC insurance coverage, okay? The other thing is keeping cash at home. We got a lot of folks that are doing it right now. We've got folks that are cashing hundreds of thousands of dollars. You know, you read the news, how many $1 trillion left the banking network over the last several months. They're getting ready to put another full court press on trying to pull some more money out of the system as well because of inflation. But keeping cash at home, not always a great idea. Safes are good to a point, but guess what? Things can still burn up in a safe. And if it's gone, it's gone. So talk with your banker and get some recommendations about the cash that you might have. Where's a safe place to put it? And again, because the rates are so good right now, you should be getting substantial payouts on the funds that you have at the bank. So, sir.
Couple things.
Yes, sir.
Can you comment on Google Pay and Apple Pay as a transaction?
You know, they're fairly safe. We have not had anybody that has had any challenges with those payment systems because their security is like way on up there. Okay, so I've seen folks that their Apple account has been compromised, but not the Apple Pay or Google Pay.
Because I think, is it true that they create a dynamic credit card number at that moment and it's different every single time? So
that I don't know.
I think that's what I've heard. So you're never giving your actual credit card number, even though it's tied to your.
Gotcha. So they're doing like a pseudo number to use. Okay.
It's almost like going out and buying a Visa gift card and then making your purchases on the Visa gift card.
Gotcha. Okay. Okay.
Two-factor authentication for security?
Yeah, so that's a big thing right now. Main reason being, so basically what that means is when you sign on to your online banking and then they're saying, we're going to text you a code. Okay, so how annoying is that sometimes? Because you may not, sometimes, it depends on how it's set up, but you might not be close to your email, or you might not be close to your phone, but it is another layer of protection. And I will tell you that we just recently at the bank had a situation where they were not able to do the second authentication, so they were not able to transfer the money out that they were trying to transfer out of an account that they had hacked into. So it may be an annoyance to have to put in your ID and then get a text code that you have to put into the online banking as well. But it is a huge way to help protect your account. Yeah.
Unfortunately, they're working around that.
Oh, I'm sure they are. It will soon be a 3-step authentication.
They've already had, Yeah.
Yeah, again, I'm going to tell you, it's the craziest thing because of these people, they're so smart. I mean, they are so smart. They should be working for the government. You know what I mean? Because I'm sorry, did I say that out loud?
Sometimes the government does hire them.
Well, and that's what I'm saying, because we are hiring some of these folks when we can catch them to show us how is it being done, because It's kind of like, okay, so I remember when 9/11 happened, and I thought, who on earth would ever think of turning a plane into a bomb? Right? But think about it, kamikazes, right? That was a bomb. So there's nothing new under the sun, right? But it's like these people have this incredible intellect, and they're able to figure all these things out. So I would love it if we could get somebody on our side to try and help us stop it. But as soon as we figure out a way to stop this, then they're coming up with a way to circumvent it.
It's like the old radar detectors.
Yeah.
You had the radar gun to catch the speeders. Then they made a radar detector. And then they made a radar detector. It keeps going back and forth.
One guy in our church told me that he has this credit card set up that anytime any purchase is made on his credit card, he gets a text message. So
yep, you can set up alerts. You should be able to.
It all depends. Kind of like what you're saying about the inconvenience. It's like, how involved do you want to be with the nuts and bolts of what's going on?
Right.
And so,
I agree wholeheartedly. And what I will tell you is, sometimes a little bit of inconvenience, if it can save you thousands of dollars or hundreds of dollars or even tens of dollars, 2 seconds. Yes, it's me. No, it's not.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Why not take the time and have that extra layer of protection? And every bank should have the ability for you to set an alert for any type of account that you've got.
Or thresholds.
Thresholds, yep, absolutely thresholds. Yeah.
And then social media, just talking about ghosting or counterfeit as opposed to hacking social media profiles.
Yeah, I don't participate in social media, so if you want to speak to that.
So all I would say is this is a real common thing for especially like Facebook or Instagram is that, I see people say, they'll email back to their friend, I think you got hacked, which technically means someone got into your profile that you own, which isn't often the case. What's usually happening is someone's setting up a ghost account, which means they've captured your picture, they've set up a separate profile, used your name, found out enough information about you, like your hometown, things like that, then that person is sending friend requests because they can see, if you haven't locked down your social media profile, they can see who your friends are. And so then all of a sudden, Sally is getting a friend request from Julie and thinking, oh, I thought we were already friends. I guess not. Accept. Okay? And then the next person gets it in the friend list, and it's like, I thought we were already friends, but I see that Sally is also friends with this person, so it must be okay. So I would say always scan through your friend list if you have a question to make sure, because I've done that for some of our shut-ins, and I'm like, do you realize you're friends with Jim 3 times on here? And there can be legitimate reasons. Some people lose their Facebook profile password, and rather than try to figure it out, they create another one, and so it lives on. So just be but there are ways to report that, if you get one. Like if I got one from Valerie or something like that, and I call her and she's like, that's not me, I would just click on the profile, go to the bottom and it says report, and then Facebook takes it from there. So just an alert there.
Yeah, you won't ever get a friend request from me.
I just have a question on that. Is it better not to put your picture on there? Because I don't use my picture on there.
But what they'll do is whatever is there, they'll mimic it.
It doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter, even if you put, some people use like a scenic background. I have a friend that's like that way. So they got ghosted. And the hacker put that same scenic background.
So that doesn't matter either.
Right.
Yeah.
Or if you have nothing, and it's just like one of those silhouette avatars, they'll do the same thing.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm so glad I'm not on social media. One less problem.
Yeah, I was going to say, Capital One is really good with the credit card. You can use virtual credit cards. They text you every time you make a purchase, and they ask you like if they see 2 purchases for the same amount. So they're really good with that.
And most banks will do that, or give you the capabilities of doing that. Through your online banking, you can set up those alerts, those heads up, like Pastor said, the thresholds, as to how much was spent. I'm on my online banking twice a day, every day, in the morning and at night, and I know that might seem a little excessive, but you know what? we've got a lot of folks that just rely on bank statements. Well, guess what? That gives a thief 30 days to annihilate your account. Okay? And I know
30 seconds.
Exactly. But if they're testing it 99 cents, $5.99, $10.99, you know, that kind of thing. So again, I'm a huge advocate for online banking. Just make sure you're doing it securely, to Paul's point. Yes, sir.
Thinking of something, and sorry if it goes off track a little bit, but one thing that you didn't mention about anytime that you're dealing with somebody that is dealing with moving money, whether it's to them or from them to you, if they ask you to get on your computer and let them into your computer, hang up the phone.
Right. Yeah.
They are not legit. Nobody ever is going to ask you to get on your computer, open your bank account, and let them get on there too.
Right. Yeah.
Because that's not how refund works.
No, absolutely not.
They don't need access to your bank account to give you a refund.
Yeah. Yes, ma'am.
Or is it wise then not to even ask for any paper documents sent to your home from credit card companies or your bank?
I do online statements for everything.
Everything.
I do online. I mean, you know, and again, those things I'm being pulled up through my computer at home on a secure network. Or if I'm like we have a secure network at the bank, so I'll use my phone in the bank to pull up some of that stuff. I'm really careful about.
Be careful about public Wi-Fi.
That's what we were talking about, hotspots and things like that. You know, make sure it's as secure that you know, because, for example, and this has been years ago, but I remember, and this was back in the, I don't know, maybe 90s or something like that. Best Buy got hacked, and so they had hackers sitting out in the cars. And they were able, you know how you purchase something at one end of the store and then they send and all of a sudden your information's over on the other end of the store. They're pulling all those numbers and stuff like that. So, you know, that's basic now compared to what they're doing. But just being really careful about, I'm right, and that's sad that that's basic stuff. So, any other questions?
I just wanted to say that I know this doesn't apply to everybody, but for business, my son's business, his whole business model. He had his whole comic book taken by somebody else and saying it was their work and trying to sell sketches from his comic book company. And he had the whole thing taken.
Oh no.
So
I'm so sorry.
You know, he had to do a lot of work to get all that back, but yeah, they can take anything.
Yeah. And that's, again, being really careful that you're in a secure network, you know what I mean, on a secure router at your home, you know, and if you don't know whether you are or you aren't, there are some reputable folks in town that, you know, can help you. There are folks here at the church that can help out, you know, just to make sure your router's set up properly and all that kind of thing, but making sure that it's encrypted and not handing that number or, you know, the password out to every person that happens to come through the door, you know? Yeah. All right, any other questions?
I just want to say thank you for giving your time.
Oh, sure. Yeah, I'm glad y'all came. It was good. For everybody that I printed out 50 of these little fraud topics that we just kind of touched on. I will leave them on the lobby table. And if there are any shut-ins or folks that are watching that need the information, I guess they can contact the church. Yeah, and we will be happy to get them out. And all I can say is be safe out there. If it